SmallRig has been building up its catalog of tripods over the last year, and now they have a pretty large lineup, especially of video tripods, including this one, the AD-50. It's a carbon fiber video tripod with a weight of only 6.2 pounds and a price tag of $169. Let's take a closer look and see if it's a good option for content creators. Before we dive in, I want to mention that SmallRig sent me the AD-50 for the purpose of reviewing it. I was not paid to make this video, and SmallRig has no input on my review. I do have an Amazon affiliate link in the description if you're interested in picking up the AD-50 tripod and you'd like to support this channel. All right, let's start with what's included with the AD-50. You get this zipper padded bag for everything, which is actually pretty nice quality for this price point. You also get an Allen wrench and you get a phone holder along with the video head, which comes attached. Inside there is another zipper compartment here where your phone holder is located, as well as a little strap. Now this is actually to go between the mid-level spreader and the top of the tripod here, so that you have an easy lift, so that you can just pull up that middle spreader and collapse the tripod. You don't have to use it. It's still easy to collapse without it, but this makes it even simpler. The case has a nice big carry strap on it as well, and overall, it's a nice enclosure for the tripod if you like to keep it in a case while you are bringing it to and from where you're recording. While we're headed out, let's talk about the difference between a video tripod like the AD-50 and a photography tripod. There are two main differences. The first is the leg structure, how the legs are built. Video tripods are going to have multi-tube legs. Each leg is comprised of multiple tubes, and that is just to add additional stability, because typically video setups can be bigger, bulkier. You can have pretty large cinema camera setups. The second primary difference is in the head. A video tripod is either meant to be used with or includes, like the AD-50, a video fluid head. Video heads have a different shape and structure than photography heads, like a ball head or a simple Arca Swiss plate style mount. Video heads are primarily focused on two axes of motion, panning and tilting. Panning is left to right, tilting is up and down. Photography tripods like this one come with mounts like ball heads pretty commonly, and those give a greater range of motion, 360 degrees. Video tripods with video fluid heads often have that larger base to mount a bigger camera setup on. The AD-50 has carbon fiber legs, a total weight of 6.2 pounds, and a max capacity of 13.2 pounds. The minimum height is 28.7 inches and the max height is 64.2 inches. The height adjustment is done with two locking knobs per leg. When folded up, the height is 31.1 inches. A mid-spreader is included with adjustable sections that lock in place with a knob. The 65mm bowl fluid head features a 4.1-inch Manfrotto 501 plate, 90 degree to minus 50 degree tilt adjustment with a stepless tilt damping knob and separate tilt lock. The panning motion has fixed damping with a locking knob, and the tilt and pan motion is controlled with an 11-inch handle that can be attached on either the right or the left side. All right, now let's talk about some of my observations while using the AD-50 and some pros and cons. First, let's talk about adjusting the height. While single-step adjustments are becoming more popular, I don't find the two-step adjustment here to be any significant downside. While using it indoors for shooting some product footage at this desk here, I didn't even have to use the bottom section at all. So at lower heights, you don't have to use both sections. You can just adjust one of them for, that few inches of play that you need. And overall, I found that very simple. And even when outdoors using it for taller heights, I just extend the bottom section most of the way that I need and then make smaller adjustments with the top section. So if you need to make some adjustments for a close-up shot and then a farther away shot, I still found myself mostly just adjusting the top section instead of reaching down to adjust the bottom section. So overall, I didn't really find myself wishing for one of those tripods with the single step adjustment all that much. I also found this fluid head to be very respectable for this price range. It doesn't have some of the more premium feeling materials to it that actually another fluid head that from SmallRig that I have has. The other one that I have, I believe, is about $150, and it has like a nice rubberized grip and a couple more premium feeling elements to it. But this one is certainly respectable, in my opinion, for the total price that you're paying. Keep in mind, though, I don't have experience using expensive video heads. I have used the slightly more expensive one from SmallRig before. I've used a couple from Manfrotto and from Sure, but I have not used the higher end industry standards like Sachtler. So just keep that in mind. I don't have any major complaints about this one, but I also am not a pro user of video fluid heads. Now, one thing to keep in mind about video fluid heads, if you're used to photography tripods with a ball head or an Arca Swiss style mount, is that the orientation of the mounting plate is not quite as flexible. For example, let me just bring in, this is actually, I'm cheating, this is a monopod, not a tripod, but this is an example of a ball head that I would use on a tripod with my mirrorless cameras, and it's got an Arca Swiss style mount here. I have cages on all of my cameras that have an Arca Swiss groove on the bottom of them, so it's very simple, no matter what direction this is facing, for me to just drop this into the top, tighten down the base here, and then I've got my panning and I've got all of my custom adjustments for my ball head. With the video heads, they're going to have this type of plate. Now this is the Manfrotto style 501 plate. They come in different sizes, so they're not all exactly the same, but the main difference here is that this is only ever going to be facing forward. So it's going to be facing like this, and then in order to get a camera like this with a cage on it, to actually mount to this tripod, you're gonna have to do one of two things. Either you're gonna have to attach this plate directly to the bottom of your cage like this, in which case you've got this big fat extra plate sticking off here all the time, or you're gonna have to use some type of adapter to go between this and this, some type of quick release. Now, if you're using larger cinema camera setups, this is going to be a non-issue because, I mean, that's the whole purpose of these types of heads. They're bigger, wider, longer to accommodate bigger, heavier cameras, and it's less of an issue because you could just leave one of these attached to a bigger cinema rig, and it's not gonna be as clunky as it is on a little mirrorless camera like this. All right, now let's talk about some pros and cons here. As far as pros go, first, the weight is definitely a pro. At just over 6 pounds, it weighs a lot less than some other video tripods that I've used. Even high-end, expensive carbon fiber ones that I have used, a lot of them have been over 10 pounds. And believe me, when you are a solo one-person crew, you feel every pound. So getting this below 7 pounds, I had no problem bringing this out and using it. It really didn't feel like it was overly weighing me down like some of those other video tripods I've used. It was also very sturdy for me. The mid-height spreader here helps to ensure the legs don't accidentally change angle on you if you bump one, and the weight capacity, as I mentioned, will hold a decent-sized mirrorless camera rig with no problem. At the same time, it's very easy to lift up on that spreader and collapse the legs to carry it. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I was also happy with the quality of the fluid head at this price point. The motions were all smooth and the locking mechanisms worked easily. As for some cons, there were two that took away from the overall experience for me. The first one was the tightening of the adjustments on the spreader. There is a helpful ruler scale on the segments, the internal segments, so you can ensure that you have them all equal length. But unfortunately, when you tighten them down, the knob there, it's that turning motion, it's pushing or pulling the inner segment, so it makes it harder to get one to match the last one. A different locking mechanism like a clamp or something might improve that. It's just when you turn it, it moves on you. It's kind of annoying. The second con that I experienced has to do with the locking mechanisms for the leg sections. I would prefer if these were clasp style locks rather than turning knobs. And that's not just about personal preference. Some of them are in different rotational positions when they are locked versus unlocked, and there's no marking on them that you are lining them up to in order to know that they are locked or unlocked. So I found myself not being able to tell the difference between which ones were locked and which ones were not. And a couple of times I picked up the tripod to move it a couple inches only to find one of the leg sections sliding out because it was unlocked. Those really were the only two cons that I experienced. At this price point, I think the AD-50 mostly exceeds expectations. If the two cons I mentioned don't sound like deal breakers for you, then I would recommend checking it out if you're in the market for a video tripod that's light enough to use on the go. So that'll do it for this video. Let me know what you think of the AD-50. Let me know if you picked one up for yourself and how you're liking it. Don't forget to subscribe to the Semi-Pro Tech & Gear channel, and while you're here, check out one of these videos. I know you'll enjoy it. Thanks everybody. See you next time.